Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's talk about overspending today, and specifically how to fix your overspending problem when you have tried everything. So this is for you if you have created plans, you've gotten the spreadsheets out, you've done journaling work, but when rubber hits the road, every single time spending wins out, right? Buying the thing wins out, and you may feel bad about it later, you may not feel anything about it later, but you just know that there's this overspending problem and nothing is seeming to kick the habit or kick that impulse in the moment. All right. So this podcast episode today was actually inspired by a question I got from one of the people inside of my Cashed Up Creatives online course. So if you don't know, for the rest of 2025, if you join the Cashed Up Creatives online course, which is a self-study video curriculum, I'm giving free live office hours every single month to anyone who's inside. So you can submit questions beforehand and then get coached by me in real time, get your questions answered live. And this is just for the rest of the year. So if you join now, you get more office hours calls. So you'll get, if you join this week, you're going to get 6 office hours calls for the rest of the year. So this is one of the questions that came through for this month's office hours, but she wasn't able to attend the office hours call. And when I was reading her question, I was like, this is going to resonate with so many people. And I have gotten so many flavors of this exact same question over the years that we have to do an episode, right? We've got to talk about it. So this is for you. So let's talk about it. So she is a recovering fuck it blackout shopper. That just means someone who says fuck it and buys the thing all of the time whenever they're at a store, scrolling, etc. So they've tried everything, no buy challenges, checking her accounts daily, the I'm coming back for you baby list, which is what I teach inside of Cashed Up Creatives. You've probably heard me talk about it before. It's the want list where you accumulate all the things you want onto a note in your notes app, and then it has to live there for 2 weeks before you can buy whatever you want from it. She's tried value-based spending, etc. So this has been happening for many years. Even before she joined Cashed Up Creatives, the online course, she's been working through this for a long time. She's been in a binge restrict cycle. I know so many of you have had seasons of binging and restricting, right? Of going really hard on a debt payoff plan or really wanting to hit a savings goal. And so you restrict your spending a lot, but then you get to a point where it's not sustainable. And so you just go on a spending binge, or you just decide it's all or nothing. YOLO, fuck it. I'm going to go do whatever I want, right? The binge restrict cycle. So this specific person, when she came into Cashed Up Creatives and she started implementing the money flow, having monthly financial CEO parties, making joy purchases for herself, what happened was she now had this permission to spend, but that permission then spiraled into buying everything all the time, okay? And so what happened was that she's no longer enjoying her purchases because she's stressed out about supporting herself. She currently has debt, no savings, and living month to month, paycheck to paycheck. She says, I'm feeling helpless on what to do. Do I need to just stop spending on non-essentials, give myself a smaller budget for whatever I want spending, and let my wish list pile up? How do I get out of this consumption binge? Okay? Now, if I read that and you're like, that's me, that's exactly why I created this episode, because I know so many of you are yep, that's me, or at least a part of it is you, right? This is a very common thing that you can know the plan, you can know what you want to do in the moment, you can create, you can get all of the education and information, but in the moment, how do you actually make meaningful change that's going to help you get closer to your financial wellness goals, okay? So the first thing that I want to say, and I've watched this happen over and over and over again with so many clients, when you finally stop letting guilt and shame run the show, when you finally actually give yourself permission to buy a joy purchase, to release the restrictive budgeting, spreadsheet tracking energy, what happens is your body naturally wants to swing to the other side of the pendulum. So I'm going to use like an actual dieting analogy here because it's so similar. It functions the exact same way. And I'm going to use Whole30 as an example because I have literally watched friends of mine do Whole30 and do this exact thing over the course of these 30 days. So they go through Whole30, right? And they're only eating certain things, right? At only Whole Foods for 30 days. That's what Whole30 is. And they're starving and they're miserable for the full 30 days. And then when the 30 days ends, they go out and they gorge themselves, right? And it's like, oh, finally it's over. And then the lifestyle like shifts to a totally different realm than what they've been living in for the past 30 days. And so it's that binging and restricting, right? That binge restrict cycle. But then when you finally give yourself permission, you sometimes will go overboard. Inevitably, if you've been restricting for a really long time, you will go overboard. But this even happens like when you've been subtly restricting without even realizing you've been restricting, or guilting yourself into like, you should be better with money. You should be farther along. Why don't you have more in savings? Like, why are you so irresponsible? And we've got those subtle little voices in our head running the show. When we finally give ourselves the permission to like, intuitive eating is what I liken this to. But when you start intuitive eating, it's like your body doesn't know what that means because you haven't let it just decide for itself what it wants for so long. And so it's the same thing with money. It's like when you finally release the hard tracking, the white knuckling, the staring at spreadsheets, right? Or shaming yourself of like, you should be spending less, you should be spending less. When you learn to start releasing that, of course your body's going to be like, it's like a big breath of like, oh my God, I can buy something and not feel guilty about it. Oh my God, I can spend however I want throughout the month and not have to budget. Like there's this freedom, this breath. So going overboard a little bit is normal, right? Because then you have to give your body that freedom to then be able to pull it back towards a medium, a neutral, right? That middle ground. So just know this is a normal response, clocking it and then pulling it back to that neutral ground, which we're going to talk about in a second. That's normal, okay? We can't go from like restricting for so long, being in a binge restrict cycle, being so mean to ourselves about money, trying to do a million things to get better with money and feeling like we're constantly failing. You can't go from that to like being perfect with your spending and your money immediately. That also doesn't exist, being perfect with your spending and your money immediately, right? But like, we're gonna have this messy middle of like, okay, what if I swing to the other side of the pendulum? Okay, that also doesn't feel good. So now I'm gonna bring myself to that medium neutral energy, okay? So I want to talk about the 3 things that stood out to me when I was reading this question. Like the 3 things that I feel like are going wrong or that need focus, right? Nothing's going wrong. The 3 things, focus areas from this question. The first thing, one of the things she said specifically was that throughout the month, she feels like she's in this sterile waiting room where she's just like holding her hands together to get to the end of the month, where then she can like go into the other room and spend like crazy. And then she has to come back into the waiting room and sit there for another 30 days. So again, this is kind of another flavor of the binge restrict cycle, right? Of like being in a fluorescent waiting room to then like going into Candyland next door. So the first thing that we want to focus on is making that waiting room energy feel more fun. Like waiting room energy sucks. So how do we bring some of the Candyland that's next door into the waiting room? How can we change out those light bulbs so they're not fluorescent, horrible light bulbs? They're the cool color changing ones that you can turn to like, you know, that maroon color when it gets to 5 p.m. at night. How can we put a rug in there? I'm going hard on this analogy. I'm going to talk specifics in a little bit, but we need to focus on waiting room energy and shifting that so it doesn't turn into a binge restrict. Second thing is, I feel like the numbers are off. There's like actual math that I think, or actual numbers that have been decided on inside of the money flow that need to be adjusted. And then the third one is I'm missing the big why. I'm missing the energy of like, why do you want to curb your overspending? What's the goal? And the goal of I just want to save more and invest more and I want to do the responsible thing and I want to be able to support myself. None of those are strong enough whys. Like that doesn't tell me anything. And so I think we're missing some of like a passion and a fire and a fuel to change this behavior. Okay, so let's go back up to the waiting room energy. So I'm going to go through each of these three more specifically. So the first one, waiting room energy. This tells me that you're not letting yourself indulge throughout the month on things that fit into your flex money. And when I say flex money, for those of you who haven't heard me talk about it before, flex money is the chunk of money outside of your bills that goes towards groceries, shopping, eating out, gas, anything else, entertainment, tickets, an Amazon purchase, whatever it is, that's your flex money. So the first thing is using some of your flex money throughout the month to go out for coffee, to go out for a dinner, to buy yourself the fun candle at the store. So that way it's not like you're in this horrible place the entire month of not being able to indulge in anything to let's see how much we have at the end of the month to then go on a binge. I want to spread out the binge throughout the month. Now, the other thing here is imbuing some savoring energy, okay? So I'm going to do a whole other podcast episode on this idea specifically, but I think along with our attention spans, we have all lost the ability to savor something, right? The speed in which our world is happening and the speed of social media, it's the instant gratification and also just the frantic energy of how much we have to do in a day to feel like we're keeping up. There's this frantic speed that is ramped up that has made us completely lose our attention spans and our ability to truly savor one small thing that makes us feel so luxurious. We've spent $5 on a pastry, we shovel it down our mouths, and then we forget to savor it. Where a $5 pastry and a savored energy could be the same as what you would feel if you spent $70 on a 3-course meal. Okay? So it's about infusing more savoring into these purchases that you're making, slowing down and being able to enjoy a $5 iced coffee as much as you would a $120 new Lululemon set, right? So second thing, the numbers are off. What I think is happening is because there was more to this question, more specifics that I didn't line out here. But one of the pieces of this question was do I need to lower the amount I'm giving myself in my flex money or my whatever I want money because I still have goals of saving and debt payoff? So what I want to say is, what is your actual baseline? Because if what you're giving yourself to spend is making you feel squeezed, then the numbers are off. We want to adjust those numbers. So if the numbers that you currently have don't allow you to put a little bit into savings or aren't letting you get ahead in other areas, that means the spending numbers are too high. Okay? And so there's two ways to remedy this. One is lower the spending, or two is to make more money. Those are the only two solutions to that math equation. So a couple of things to think about here. What's your true baseline? Okay, this is one of the things I walk through in the online course is really getting clear on what are your bills and what's your flex money. Those added together is your baseline number. What does it cost to live as you month to month to month? And it takes a little bit to really understand what that number is. Now, the goal isn't to lower that number to as little as possible. But if you're feeling squeezed financially, it might behoove you to ask yourself, is this really my true baseline? And I have had a personal experience with this, with my baseline. I used to think that my flex number was $1,200. And that was when I was living in Denver. Now, I kept that flex number when I moved to New York City, assuming that it would go up, but it didn't go up. And then over the past year, as I've been doing a lot of work and journaling and doing a lot of internal work on what are my actual priorities and this socialist society that I think we all should be moving towards and refocusing on community, right? With what's happening in the world. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on in my brain, right? That has actually pulled me away from a lot of the spending that I was doing. And so my new flex number is $750. And a lot of times I don't even hit that. This month, I think I was at $650 in New York City. And y'all know me, I'm not a budget shopper. I'm not a couponer, right? Like, this isn't me restricting myself and only eating ramen. But when I really got clear with myself on my spending priorities and what I wanted, right, my flex number was half of what it was back when I lived in Denver. And I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, right? Or even think that that was possible until I started stress testing it. So I would be curious to see what happens if you stress test a different baseline number. And then the other solution here is to make more money. So if you're deciding that, let's say your flex number is $1,500 for the month, and if you are truly staying within that $1,500, even with all of the other spending that you feel like you're doing. So what I don't know in this question is the spending that's happening going over your flex number? Is it requiring you to put things on a credit card? Like, that's what I'm curious about. But if you're truly staying within your flex number and that's feeling really free and really good, and you don't want to lower it, that's totally fine. Then what are the ways that you can increase your income to be able to make movement on your savings goals, getting 3 months ahead on bills, and also being able to put more money into your firm account to pay off your debt in the background, right? To have those minimum payments set and going, and then being able to make extra debt payoff if you desire to. So I would play around with those numbers. Play around with what is actually possible for you and your flex money without it feeling restrictive. And then let's think about how you want to start making more income. If you're inside of the course, the person who asked this question is watching the video, Make an Extra $500 a Month, is going to be so good to listen to, not only to get cash in the bank right now, but then also in the future to think about increasing your numbers overall over time consistently, right? Like long-term solutions. I just did an interview today. It's going to come out in the next couple of weeks with one of my past clients, Cameron, and he talks about this specifically of doing the training, Make an Extra $500 a Month, made him $500 that month, right? Gave him an extra $500 cash in the bank. But then it had him thinking differently about how he wanted to increase his numbers overall over the long term, right? So it's going to do both things at the same time. So now the third thing that I was hearing is that I'm not hearing this a why, a very clear driver of what does saying no to a purchase in the moment actually mean for you in the future. Like, where's the excitement about what you're saying yes to? So the focus I'm hearing is like on what you can't say yes to, what you're saying no to in the moment. That's what a lot of overspending is like, I don't want to say no, so I'm gonna get it. That's a lot of overspending. So what are you saying yes to when you're saying no to the purchase? So all that means is you know why you even care about your financial wellness. And a lot of the stuff that I hear is like, well, so I have savings, so I can be safe, so I can be financially responsible, so I can retire and like not be in poverty. Like, sure, all of those, yes, sign off on those. That's great. But like, what's the thing that no one else would be able to say because it's so tied to you personally? So like my personal whys of why I want to keep making more money and why I want to invest and why I'm so conscious about my financial wellness is, one, so I have wiggle room money anytime I want to go visit my family that is all across the country. My parents are in Florida and my sister's in LA. And I can drop money on flights and see them as many times as I want because I love them so much. Okay, that's a huge why for me of why I care about having extra money in the bank account. And the second thing is so that for me, I can take breathers on like artistic breaks if I need to, or say yes to a contract that pays me less, or be able to take off for like a month and go have a retreat where I go and like write something. I don't know, like there's so, maybe it's for, and this is a new one that's coming up, but like me being able to produce my own work and direct my own work, and being able to bankroll that and fund that myself. Like there's these new things that are popping up for me. And do you notice how none of these are about like a specific number in the savings account or maxing out my IRA? Right? Or like none of it has to do with any like traditional money goal, but the excitement that's getting drummed up in me from these two very specific things that like actually motivate me, That's what I'm thinking about when I'm sitting down for my CEO party, when I'm making spending decisions. These are the things that are going through my head. And because those feel so exciting and expansive to me, what I'm choosing to not spend money on feels like nothing because I have so much excitement going towards the other thing. Okay. So a lot of what this question, I was hearing some guilt and I was hearing some shame, which is never going to carry you through. So we need to have the why that's actually an excitement. So when you're feeling guilty or anxious about your money situation, follow the question trail. So like, why am I feeling anxious about not having money in savings? Oh, it's because, for me, it's like, because if I want to go see my parents one weekend when I'm missing them, I'm not going to have the money to be able to do it, and I'm going to have to put it on a credit card. Why am I afraid of putting that on a credit card? Well, because then I'll have to pay it off, and what if I can't, and then I'm in debt, and then I have to make payments, and then that means that the next time I want to take a trip, I can't because I have to make payments. Then it comes back down to that deep core why of like, I just really want to be able to take a flight and go see my parents, right? So what is that for you? Ask that question, right? Why do I feel guilty about this? Why do I feel anxious about this? Guilt and anxiety, and this then leads me into the second part of this conversation. So those are the three things that I was hearing. So something else I want to note here is guilt and anxiety are just emotions that haven't been felt through. Because like guilt and anxiety aren't really emotions. They're what manifest from emotions not being felt through. The two most common ones when it comes to money situations is sadness and anger. I'm sad about where I'm at. I'm sad that I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm sad that I am not booking work. That's one that gets me right in the heart when I'm not booking, right? But I'm normally anxious about that. But what I realized last year is that whenever I'm feeling anxious about that, it's actually because I'm just deeply sad that I'm not in a rehearsal room, right? And so allowing myself to feel the sadness, feel through the emotion is what lets it pass through me much more quickly. So I am curious, have you cried about your situation? Like, I want you to feel this real emotions that you're feeling about what's currently happening in your money life. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to end up wallowing. That doesn't mean that you've accepted your fate. Feeling through an emotion, like when an emotion comes up, you can't do anything about that. Let yourself feel sad about it. Let it pass through you and then decide okay, now I'm going to go journal on what my why is. And now I'm going to go make some changes. Guilt and anxiety are they've got your claws in your body. They don't let go easily. Okay. But when you feel through a real emotion like sadness and anger, it just slides out, right? It gets purged. Okay. So the other thing here is something I was hearing in this question. It feels like your bandwidth is stretched. Okay. And I know every single one of us, if you are listening to this podcast, I would venture to guess that you are feeling stretched too thin. Collectively, we are all being stretched way too thin with how much we are expected to work, with how much we are expected to do, with the amount of hats that we have to wear. I know I've got so many creatives listening to this podcast. If you are a creative who is a freelancer, owns your own business, whatever, you have to be your marketing manager, you have to be your finance person, you have to be the actual actor or creative, you have to be the shipping manager, you have to be the video editor. There's so many things that we have to do. And then also probably a million things on top of that. Maybe you have a family, you have a dog, you have an apartment, you have dishes, you have to bathe yourself. There's so many things. We are all being collectively stretched way too thin. But the thing is, bandwidth is required to make meaningful change. So when you are on a financial wellness journey, it is going to require bandwidth. Not because the tactical, practical stuff that you are going to be doing with your money is going to take a lot of hours, but because your brain needs breathing room. And this is exactly why I don't teach you to track daily. I don't give you a spreadsheet you have to update. I give you shit that is so simple that it can be done in 1 hour a month, because I need you to spend the rest of your time breathing in your brain, letting it think out its thoughts, journaling out its thoughts, and also sitting in silence. Okay? Because what happens when you give your brain that time and that space is the real shit that you're actually feeling or thinking about has time to come out. The things that you're afraid to say, the things you're afraid to admit, the feelings that have been so scared to show themselves to you, they're going to come out. You're going to have ideas that you have never had before. And this only comes with giving yourself room. So this could mean literal calendar space, removing some things for your calendar. I actually just did that recently. I removed myself from a business project that was taking up some of that bandwidth that I needed back in my creative brain space. It could be about during your free time when you've given yourself calendar space, not disassociating, right? Maybe it's you're a TikTok scroller, maybe Love Island, man. Whenever Love Island comes on, it is so hard to give myself brain space when Love Island has its new season. But it's about, right, like having the white noise, whether it's a show or a podcast in your ears all the time, like letting yourself be in silence. This feels so uncomfortable. Trust me, it has not gotten easier for me, right? But like, in the time that you do give yourself, are you actually letting yourself sit in silence or journal or not, like numb out, right? And distract yourself, stimulate yourself. Okay. The other thing that I want to talk about on this episode is usually when there's an overspending problem or an overspending like symptom, I say symptom because it's usually a symptom of something else. And there are 4 main culprits for overspending that you just can't kick. Like if you feel like I've done the money flow method and I've set up my bank accounts and I know what I want to do and I've gotten clear on my numbers, but like I just can't do it in the moment and it still wins out every single time. It's probably because of one of these 4 things. The first thing is feeling a lack of purpose in your career or not feeling creatively fulfilled. Something about your work life is feeling unfulfilling. The second thing is lack of relationships and community. The third thing is not having hobbies outside of scrolling TikTok and Love Island, or having things that are meaningful to you that you're cultivating and enjoy doing outside of your work life. Okay, so like I don't love the word hobbies. That feels silly, but just like other enrichment that you have in your day-to-day life. And then 4 is being in a place of despair and hopelessness. And this could be like a mental health situation where like you are actively in a season of depression, but it could also be like with what's happening in the world right now. I have slipped in and out of this in the past few months, but having moments where it's like literally nothing matters, everything's gone to shit, like I've gone into hopeless moments. So if that's happened to you, like when you are in hopelessness and despair, sometimes the only thing that will allow you to feel something, right, is to spend to get a dopamine hit to like and distract you. So that's why this one is in here as well. So to go back through each of the 4 of these, like why they are culprits of overspending is because if you're feeling a lack of like career fulfillment or artistic fulfillment, a lot of times we'll try and solve whatever the problem is with money, but we're not actually solving the real problem. So I shared this on Instagram recently, but when I know that when I'm feeling a lack of artistic fulfillment, that's when my overspending trigger is the loudest. Because I'm like, oh, I need a new audition outfit. I need new audition shoes. I need new headshots. Oh, I need to like go out and buy or like purchase a one-on-one class to get seen in front of this agent that I want to, like I'm trying to throw money at the problem of not feeling creatively fulfilled. So I'm like, I'm going to do all these things so that I can get booked, so that I can be creatively fulfilled, versus solving the creative fulfillment, which is, oh, have I read a new play in a week? No, I should probably read one. Oh, have I like put up my self-tape stuff and got this new piece on film that I'm really excited about in a minute? No, I haven't done that. Do I have a project that I'm actively working on that I have control over? Have I like sat down and dreamed about like what it would be like to direct this specific script? Like, no, I haven't. So like instead of trying to push money towards solving the adjacent problem, like just solve the problem of creative fulfillment, right? The second thing is lack of relationships and community. I see the same thing happen. Throwing money towards a problem that isn't actually the problem. So like spending a lot of money on creating a perfectly aesthetic home and environment, right? Creating these like Pinterest pictures at your events. And like the idea is you're thinking about all the people you're going to invite over and the pictures and the environment and the laughs, but you're thinking about it in like magazine pictures rather than, so you start spending money to like make that picture happen versus going out and making friends at your local park. Reaching out to the people that you've connected with on Instagram who are in your city to go and grab a coffee. Actually saying yes to the parties that you're invited to and not flaking out at the last minute. Going to said party without a brand new outfit, wearing something that's already in your closet. Like, how can you actually solve for the actual problem versus spending money about that problem? So now we get into no hobbies, not having other enrichment activities that you really enjoy doing that aren't about spending money. So a lot of times shopping happens out of boredom. Shopping happens as a way to feel like you're doing something enriching that isn't actually enriching. So I see this a lot when people like want to get hobbies. They'll go and spend a lot of money on a hobby that then doesn't stick. Like crafting is a big one where they'll like go out and spend all this money on a specific craft project and then they do it or they don't do it and then it like doesn't stick, right? So spending is a really great way to feel like you're building something or creating something, whether it's a capsule wardrobe or like, again, like interior design or a specific hobby that you have to get all of this stuff for before you actually do it. Versus like, do you just need to go find like the trash that's in your house and paint it with this like one color of paint that you have in the back of your closet and like see what you can make in those creative constraints? It's a really uncomfortable question to have to ask yourself, like, what would I do if I couldn't spend money today and if I couldn't consume any media today? Just those two things, when you remove those two from your life, like what happens when you think about a Saturday? It's interesting. I've had to do this myself, right? And it was uncomfortable shit that came up. But what came from it was a lot of other things that I wanted to start doing that I could fill my days with, right? And I had a lot more bandwidth, right, of time that was given to me that I like got to be bored in. Okay. So that's the third one. And then the despair and the hopelessness, like when you're in the energy of like, fuck it, nothing matters. It's really hard to pull yourself into a place of wanting to curb your overspending problem when you're in that place. So this one, I just want to like wrap in so much compassion, and especially with what we're seeing in the world, like people who have never struggled with mental health before, like this is now a time where people are like, oh, is this what depression feels like? Or is this what true anxiety feels like? Like, right. So this one is wrapped in so much compassion of whatever you need to do to take care of yourself in this time, do it. Even if that includes spending, but know that your priority, like do not put any weight on yourself to like curb the overspending. Your priority, number one goal right now is to pull yourself into a place where you can feel hopeful about at least one thing, okay? Find hope in one specific thing to help breathe that like first ladder rung to pull you out of that hole, okay? So these are the 4 culprits. I want you to sit with if one of these resonates with you, if you're in that overspending problem, how can you actually focus on solving the real problem versus trying to get yourself to like stop overspending in the moment. When you solve for community, choosing to not spend money on that specific thing in that moment is going to get a lot easier because you've solved the real problem. Okay, so I've given you lots to think about in this episode and lots of things to dive into, but what I want to say is that you need to give yourself time to sit and journal and think on these things. So this is going back to my bandwidth conversation earlier, giving yourself bandwidth. Now, this is also something that you might need support on. And not even that you might need it, you just might want support on that, right? So this is where you can come get coached. If you're in Cashed Up Creatives, you can come to office hours and we can talk through some of these things. But also my one-on-one money mentorship clients, we have weekly calls, right? So we can talk every single week and dissect in the week, did you have spending impulsive purchases? What was happening in your brain? So we can do like live journaling sessions, right? That's what a coaching call is, right? Like we're diving into those specific things so we can give you tools and game plans for the next time it happens. So that way you can make a decision that's more aligned with you. Okay. So it is normal to want support for this kind of work, because this is like behavior change. I mean, this is therapy, right? Not that this specifically is therapy, but it's the same why behind therapy, right? Because like you can self-assess yourself all day long, but sometimes you need that third-party person to like walk beside you and hold your hand. You need that person to give you that outsider perspective, because sometimes being in your own brain, this is why I need coaches. This is why I need support, right? Because like me in my own brain, we don't see things clearly all the time up here, right? So I just want to tell you that it is okay if you're like, I can't do this on my own. That is why I have two different kinds of containers. I have my one-on-one coaching support for those of you who want more accountability and that more one-on-one private attention. But then I also have this course that for the rest of the year, we do have office hours for, so you can still get that in-person support. But the video training portal, you have lifetime access to. So you can always look back at those video trainings for the support that you desire. There's a mindset toolkit that's in there specifically for moments like these. There is a training called Spending Without Guilt that touches on a lot of these different tools and things to do here. So I hope this episode was helpful. I am sure it resonated with so many more people than just the person who submitted this question. And I hope you all have a fantastic week. I will see you at the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.